The person who would betray you if the price was right is a safer partner than your loyal best friend who swears they never would. You've been filtering for the wrong threat your entire life, and it's why you keep getting blindsided by people you thought you could trust. You built the company with someone who believed in the vision, who felt like family, who would never screw you over. And then they did, and you never saw it coming. Meanwhile, the shark you avoided because they only cared about themselves is still running their partnerships successfully because they were honest about the game from the beginning. You've been taught to build teams with trustworthy people, people who share your values, people who feel safe, people who would never turn on you. This is the advice that destroyed you in that partnership 3 years ago. You picked the person who felt right in your gut, the one who swore loyalty, the one who talked about the mission like it was sacred. Where are they now? Think back to the moment you got blindsided, not by the obvious snake, by the good person, the one who suddenly had their own opportunity. Remember that sick feeling in your stomach? That wasn't just betrayal. That was the moment you realized you never actually saw them clearly. You were looking for comfort instead of reality. You were scanning for friendship when you should have been mapping incentives. And it cost you everything. Here's what Dostoevsky understood that your kindergarten teacher didn't. The person who would betray you is the only person you can actually partner with. When betrayal is possible, when it's visible, when you can see it coming, you hold leverage. When someone swears they would never betray you, when loyalty is taken on faith, you're blind. And blind is how you lose. The traitor you can see is safer than the loyal friend you can't. This isn't about being cynical. This is about being awake. Every single day you avoid the opportunist and embrace the loyal ally. You're bleeding power. You're handing your security to someone else's moral character. And moral character is a variable you cannot see, cannot measure, cannot influence. It changes in the dark. It shifts when circumstances shift. And you find out only after the damage is done. Why does your throat tighten when someone shows you their ambition? Why does your chest relax around someone who claims they just want to help? Because you've been programmed to trust the wrong signals, programmed to fear visible self-interest and embrace invisible self-interest. This programming is why you keep getting surprised. This is why you keep losing. Dostoevsky spent his life watching people destroy each other in the Petersburg underground, not through obvious villainy, through the tyranny of moral pretense. He saw what polite society refuses to see. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with visible self-interest. It's the one who's convinced themselves they have none. It's the true believer, the mission-driven ally, the person who doesn't need contracts because trust should be enough. These are the people who will gut you while believing they're doing the right thing. You keep choosing the person who makes you feel safe, and that feeling is precisely what makes you vulnerable. The opportunist scares you because you can see their hunger. Good. Fear is information. When you can see what someone wants, you can work with it. When their wants are hidden behind virtue and loyalty, you're working blind. And working blind is how you end up on the floor, wondering how you missed it. So why does this keep happening to you? Because the programming runs deep. Let's pull it out by the roots. From the moment you could understand words, they installed the software. Good people are trustworthy. Selfish people are dangerous. Your teachers needed you to sit still and follow rules. Your parents needed you manageable and predictable. So they built a threat detection system inside your head that screams when someone shows visible self-interest. The ambitious person triggers alarms. The opportunist feels wrong in your bones. Meanwhile, the person hiding their self-interest behind noble words feels safe. This is the malware. This is what's been running your decisions your entire life. Your brain didn't evolve for the world you live in now. It evolved for small tribes where everyone knew everyone and reputation was everything. Back then, displays of loyalty actually meant something. Betray the group and you'd be exiled. You'd die alone. So your ancestors learned to trust the loyalty signals. But you're not in a tribe anymore. You're in a massive, fluid, anonymous world where people change cities overnight, where careers shift every few years, where someone can burn you and just move to another market. The person signaling loyalty isn't more trustworthy. They're just better at signaling. And you keep falling for it. Count the cost you've already paid. That business partner who believed in the vision but couldn't execute when you actually needed competence instead of faith. That friend who had your back until supporting you became socially expensive at their new job. That employee who loved the culture but left for 15% more money somewhere else. Every single time you were shocked, every single time you thought this person was different, and every single time you paid the price in confusion, in recovery time, in shattered assumptions about how the world works. Someone benefits from your confusion. A society that teaches you to trust trustworthy people creates a population that's easy to control. Think about it. If you filter for loyalty signals instead of structural incentives, you'll never build the coalitions that actually threaten power. You'll be constantly surprised, constantly reorganizing, constantly starting over with new people you think you can trust. The game continues because you keep playing it wrong. You keep looking for good people instead of aligned incentives. And the system needs you to keep looking in the wrong direction. This isn't new knowledge. Robert Greene documented this pattern across 3,000 years of power dynamics. Machiavelli wrote it plainly in The Prince. The reliable ally is the one whose interests align with yours structurally, not emotionally. Game theory proves it with math. Cooperation doesn't emerge from virtue. It emerges from repeated games where betrayal costs more than cooperation. Dostoevsky just understood the psychology underneath. He saw the specific flavor of self-deception that keeps you vulnerable. He watched people in Russia try to build society on moral transformation and shared belief. He knew it would end in blood. You didn't choose to see the world this way. The patterns were installed before you could think for yourself. Installed by people who needed you compliant, not powerful. And now those patterns are costing you everything. Every partnership that fell apart. Every ally who vanished when you needed them. Every time you were blindsided by someone you trusted. You've been running corrupted software your entire life. You've been scanning for the wrong threat. So what makes the person who would betray you safer to partner with? The answer is in the mechanism you've been missing. Here's the mechanism you've been missing. The loyal person operates on invisible variables. Their feelings, their sense of identity, their personal morality. These things shift in the dark where you can't see them. When their feelings change, you find out after the damage is done. You have zero leverage over what's happening inside their head. But the opportunist operates on visible variables. Status, resources, future opportunities. The cost to their reputation if they burn you. These are things you can observe, things you can measure, things you can influence. This is the dark reversal that changes everything. Calculable self-interest is predictable. Moral conviction is chaos. Watch how most people choose a business partner. They pick the person who shares the vision, who feels like family, who gets emotional talking about the mission. They don't negotiate equity clearly because that feels transactional and cold. They don't set up decision rights because real trust shouldn't need contracts. Fast forward 2 years. The company pivots, or one person is clearly contributing more and the other person isn't pulling weight anymore. Now the partnership implodes. Not because anyone is evil, because there was no structure, only sentiment, only the assumption that shared belief would be enough. Now watch the approach that actually works. You partner with the ambitious operator, the one who would betray you if the incentives were right, the one who has other options, the one who negotiates hard and wants clear terms, the one who obviously wants to win. This person makes you uncomfortable because you can see their hunger. Good. Now you structure the partnership so betrayal becomes expensive. Vesting schedules that reward staying. Defined roles so nobody can claim they're doing everything. Clear equity tied to actual performance. Suddenly, you both know exactly where you stand. The partnership works because it has to work. The incentives are locked in. Nobody's running on feelings that can change tomorrow. The person capable of betrayal respects you more because you're not naive. You're both adults operating in reality. The transaction is clean. Compare this to relationships built on loyalty. What happens when the context shifts? When someone moves cities or changes careers, or their life circumstances evolve? The loyalty-based relationship dies because it was never built on structure. It was built on a feeling that doesn't survive change. But the relationship built on aligned incentives? That survives distance, survives role changes, survives evolving priorities. Because the structure holds even when feelings shift. Scale this up and you see it everywhere. Organizations that hire for competence and ambition, then constrain behavior through smart incentives, destroy organizations that hire for culture fit and hope people's character does the work. Why? Because character is invisible. Competence and incentive structure are visible. Markets work not because participants are virtuous, but because self-interested actors cooperate when cooperation pays better than defection. Meanwhile, friendships based on "we'd never betray each other" collapse the moment one person's life changes and the implicit contract no longer makes sense. Dostoevsky saw this in the Petersburg Underground. In Notes from Underground, his protagonist recognizes that the good people are the most dangerous. The rationalists, the moral reformers, the utopians. These people don't see their own self-interest. They'll destroy you while believing they're saving you. They'll ruin your life and sleep well at night because they were following their principles. But the conscious egoist? You can bargain with them. You know what they want. That knowledge makes them predictable. That predictability makes them safe. Look at history. Stalin didn't kill the traitors. He killed the loyalists. The old Bolsheviks who believed in the revolution, who thought their shared ideology made them untouchable. He kept the pragmatists, the ones who understood power as transaction. Why? Because true believers become unpredictable when reality stops matching their beliefs. They fracture, they radicalize, they turn on you in the name of purity. But operators? Operators stay predictable because they follow incentives, not faith. This pattern appears in every relationship where power is involved. Your assistant who loves working for you versus the one who sees this job as a stepping stone, and you make sure that stone requires your recommendation. Your romantic partner who would never leave versus the one who has options but chooses you because the relationship actually works for their life. Even your kids, the ones who obey out of fear or duty versus the ones who cooperate because you've made cooperation more rewarding than rebellion. Every functional system in human history operates on this principle. Rome, Silicon Valley, the global economy. Ambitious, self-interested actors cooperating because the structure makes cooperation more profitable than betrayal. Every collapsing system operated on the opposite assumption. The Soviet Union, your last failed startup, your destroyed friendship. All built on the idea that shared belief would override individual incentive. Dostoevsky watched Russia try to build civilization on moral transformation. He knew it would drown in blood. And it did. Here's where most people who learn this knowledge destroy themselves. If you take this as permission to only work with sociopaths and treat every relationship as pure transaction, you'll attract only sociopaths and create only transactions. You'll end up alone, surrounded by mercenaries waiting for a better offer. The point isn't to eliminate trust. The point is to build trust on structure instead of sentiment. The opportunist who respects you will deliver when the incentives align and leave cleanly when they don't. That's not betrayal. That's honesty. That's someone operating in reality. You cannot implement this from a position of weakness. If you're the loyal incompetent trying to partner with the ambitious operator, you're not being strategic. You're just prey calling itself smart. First, you have to become dangerous. You need skills that make you valuable, leverage that gives you options, the ability to walk away if the deal stops making sense. Only then can you afford to partner with people who also have options. The partnership works when both parties can leave but choose to stay, because staying pays better than leaving. If you're clinging because you have nowhere else to go, you've already lost. What must you become? Someone who offers enough value that the partnership is worth maintaining. Someone who has options themselves so they're not operating from desperation. Someone who sees clearly without bitterness, who understands self-interest without resenting it, who builds systems that make loyalty rational instead of demanding loyalty as proof of virtue. This requires strength. You can't play this game from your knees. This week, audit your current partnerships, business, personal, professional, all of them. Ask yourself one question for each relationship. If this person had a dramatically better opportunity tomorrow, what structural reason would they have to stay? Not emotional reasons, not because they're a good person, not because of history. Structural reasons. If the only answer you can find is they wouldn't do that to me, you're operating on faith. You're gambling. And the house always wins when you're gambling. In the next 30 days, renegotiate or exit one relationship where you've been relying on loyalty signals instead of aligned incentives. Make the stakes explicit. Make the value exchange crystal clear. Make betrayal expensive and cooperation profitable. This will feel uncomfortable. It will feel cold. That discomfort is your programming screaming at you to stop seeing reality. Ignore it. Watch what happens when you put structure where there used to be only hope. You clicked on this video because partnering with the person who would betray you sounded insane. Now you understand. The person who would betray you under the right conditions, but won't because you've made the wrong conditions, is safer than the loyalist you're blindly trusting. The person who could leave but doesn't because you've built something worth staying for is worth more than the person who couldn't leave even if they wanted to. This isn't pessimism. This is the difference between operating in the world as it is versus the world as kindergarten told you it would be. You can't unhear this. Every time someone says we're like family at a job, your skin will crawl. Every loyalty oath will sound like a threat. Every partnership that lacks clear structure will feel like walking into a dark room. Good. That discomfort is your nervous system finally recognizing reality. Most people spend their entire lives getting betrayed by people they trusted and never learning the lesson. You just did. Those who see the world through Dostoevsky's eyes don't ask for loyalty. They build structures where loyalty becomes rational. They don't fear the ambitious. They partner with them and make the partnership profitable enough that betrayal stops making sense. They don't get surprised when people act in their self-interest. They predict it. They price it in. They use it. You know what to do now. The only question is whether you have the stomach to actually do it.